Yeah, some days I feel unfazed, like when I'm with my friends with a cup raised. Come Monday, I got a gun raised. Suicidal, do a dime till hump day. Then I go right back at it like an automatic. More drinks, more songs, more beats to rap. I need a shrink, I'm gone. More time keeps passing. No watch, no thoughts at all, just to have new era. Rep my P's and those O's. Need the Phillies with the orange and black to feel home. From Citizens Bank back to Camden Yards. It's a tale of two cities, and trust we go hard. Trust we go hard, yes we go hard. You said we go hard, I said we go hard. Rockin' my Bob Cousy, stocking up on the loose. Think the lyrics come easy, but the life is a doozy. And yes, I'm choosy, and no, I won't settle, but I still take pop off over that kettle. Cause I'm talking bigger picture, and yes, I'm gonna hit you with the...
If you've ever been anywhere near a road in Australia, you'll quickly find out that 90% of drivers couldn't drive a greasy stick up a dog's ass. But that of course means that there's 10% that can. And for the small amount who don't end up in jail for doing such, with enough talent, luck and financial backing, they can make it into Formula 1, the pinnacle of motorsport, where despite being supremely talented and some of the best drivers on the grid at any current time, they're always stuck playing second fiddle to a future world champion. Just have a look at Mark Webber and four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo and four-time world champion Max Verstappen, and most recently Oscar Piastri and reigning world champion Lando Norris. And while he denies that it was sabotage, you can't deny the blatant favouritism.
Please let Lando pass, then you're free to race.
Fuck you don't know what it's like to be so messed up that you hope that you die.
Anyway, in today's video we'll be going through all the funny / outrageous and entertaining moments that involve Australia's impact on Formula 1 in somewhat recent history, from the impact on the drivers, the impact on the tracks, and of course some of the impacts in the barriers. Anyway, that's enough waffle, let's get into it. Starting off of course with the Australian Grand Prix. Now the 2026 British Grand Prix was the most attended F1 weekend in history. It was 5 drivers home race, one of which was Lewis Hamilton, who's won there 9 times and has a straight named after him, who was fresh off his first win in almost 2 years, while also being a 7-time world champion. They also had Red Bull Racing showing off their new gravel grader, Mercedes and McLaren showing off their new low drag setup, a Ferrari strategy masterclass, and of course a race ending under the safety car. No wonder so many people made the effort to turn up. But you see, for almost 31 years before this race, the most attended record was held by the 1995 Adelaide Grand Prix. I didn't even know there was 500,000 people in Adelaide. The winner of that race was Damon Hill, who lapped the entire field not once, but twice. It was the last race of the season in 1995, giving Michael Schumacher his second F1 title, and the cars didn't sound like vacuum cleaners. So it's pretty amazing that they managed to hold this title for almost 31 years, despite F1 being more popular now than it's ever been. Now I want to talk about the Melbourne Grand Prix. The first Melbourne Grand Prix was in 1996, after that record-breaking one in 1995 in Adelaide. Up to this point, no Australian driver had ever won a home Grand Prix, since it officially became part of the F1 calendar, but now it was time for things to change. But not for another 6 years until Mark Webber debuted in 2002, where he started 18th on the grid and managed to drag it up to 5th, just missing out on the podium. But I mean, it wasn't exactly the hardest feat in the world. Just have watched this race start.
Ralph is motoring into second place, and he hits Ruben Barrichello. Huge accident! Oh my goodness! Ruben's rear wings off. There goes Ralph Schumacher, and I think I'm going to have to restart it. There's an absolute yes, and one of the bases on fire.
It makes it a bit easy when 13 of your competitors are taken out on the first corner. Then the next 2 years were a DNF, 5th, DNF, 13th, DNF, 12th, 9th, 5th, 4th, and then in his last race, a 6th before his retirement. But in 2012, we had another Aussie driver on the grid, Daniel Ricciardo, who finished 9th, DNF'd the next year, and then in 2014, Australia finally got a home race podium with Daniel Ricciardo coming in 2nd. He just replaced Mark Webber in the second Red Bull seat, with 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel as his teammate, and then a few hours later, after all the celebrations and podiums were over, it turns out Daniel's car used too much fuel and he was disqualified. Then for the remainder of his career, he'd finish a bee's dick off the podium with a best of 4th place, despite winning many other races including Monaco. The talent was there, but unfortunately the luck just wasn't. But in 2023 we had another Australian make their F1 debut. Oscar Piastri. After his infamous back and forth over Twitter with Alpine, he started with McLaren and unfortunately only managed to qualify 16th on the grid. He did make up 8 places and finish a respectable 8th though, where next year in 2024 he managed to get 4th, tying with Mark Webber and Daniel Ricciardo as the best home race finish that we've ever got. But it was only his second season in F1, so surely it's only onwards and upwards from here. In 2025 he managed to qualify 2nd, only a bee's dick away from his teammate Lando in 1st in the exact same car. Surely we were on for a podium podium or even a win. Well, unfortunately, people forgot this is Melbourne. The weather here is shithouse. Rookie Isaac Hadjar thunder-cunted his racing balls into the barrier at turn 2 on the formation lap, and then after his car was finally cleaned up and the race could get underway, Australian rookie Jack Doohan shit-missiled his Alpine into the wall as well, and then on the last corner, Carlos Sainz did the same thing. So then, when the race finally got underway, Oscar Piastri held on to his second place for 44 laps, before losing grip in the wet on the second to last corner, and shit-mixing it onto the grass, starting his own mowing company. Fun fact, if you look on Google Maps, the Piastri mowing company is still marked there. He managed to put it in reverse.
Bag up, Terry. Put it in reverse, Terry. Put it in reverse. Oh, Lord.
Recover from 13th to 9th place to finish the race. Now we're on to present day. The record's still 4th place at the Australian Grand Prix. We were so close to getting our first official podium. Piastri had just won 7 races the season prior in the McLaren rocket ship. It's the first race of the season. Let's see how it goes. The formation lap, the Bluetooth device disconnects and he thundercunts it into the wall. Just like Kimi Antonelli did the day before and Isaac Hadjar the year before.
Ja, also um Gottes Willen. Ja, das war sein gleich zu Beginn.
Then in the next race in China, both McLarens didn't start, and at this point in the season, the safety car had done more racing laps than Oscar Piastri. So now all 3 of Australia's most recent F1 drivers, besides Jack Doohan who got dropped like a sack of potatoes, have all scored a career best of 4th at our home Grand Prix. But now it's time to talk about some of the tomfoolery that surrounds the Australian Grand Prix that takes place off the racetrack. Starting off of course with Juan Pablo Montoya's 2004 interview, where 2 comedians asked him this question.
The rising number 1 of Formula 1 wonders, should Juan only win one Formula 1 year? Would Juan want to have won that one in round 1? What?
And obviously that's quite the tongue twister, hence why I didn't repeat it myself. But while he initially played along with it,
but one of them would be in round 1.
He quite quickly changed his tune and stormed out. Comedian 011. And for those of you who don't know, they take security at these F1 races very seriously. So in 2025, when these kids got caught sneaking in using the old high-vis vest method, they got rinsed and taken to court. But my favourite story to come out of the Australian Grand Prix was in 2010, when Lewis Hamilton felt the wrath of Melbourne's highway patrol. It was Friday night and he'd just topped the practice charts. He took his Mercedes C63 AMG down to St Kilda, did a burnout and fishtailed it up the road. Now what Lewis Hamilton didn't know, despite the fact that he was already a world champion at this point, was that in Australia, having any fun, especially in a car, is punishable by the electric chair. Now Hamilton didn't get the chair, however his car was impounded. He was also given a $500 fine, which I'm sure I could cover due to the fact that he's now worth $600 million. And he also apologised for his exuberant driving, calling it silly. But that $500 isn't the only amount of money that the government's been able to siphon out of the well-padded pockets of F1 drivers. You see, it's no secret that F1 drivers earn a lot of money, and majority of them, including our own Oscar Piastri, all live in Monaco to avoid paying large amount of taxes. Why wouldn't you? As Kerry Packer famously once said,
I am not evading tax in any way, shape or form. Now, of course I am minimising my tax, and if anybody in this country doesn't minimise their tax, they want their heads ripped. Because as a government, I can tell you're not spending it that well that we should be donating extra.
That's why I don't pay tax, because you don't have to pay tax on a hobby. This YouTube channel is a non-profit charity organisation, and due to the fact that I collect these yellow dollar icons like Sonic collects rings, there's fuck all to tax in the first place. But you see, every year when the Australian GP happens, the Australian government taxes every F1 driver for every day that they spend in the country, because they're working. And when you're earning 60 or 70 million euros like some of the top drivers, that's a whole lot of dinero going down the drain. As Kerry Packer said, it's not like they're spending it wisely anyway. So they fly in late, piss off early. Sometimes some of them will hang around, including Valtteri Bottas, who's dating an Australian, is basically Australian himself at this point. He even owns and drives a VE Commodore, so I hope he gets well soon. So yeah, like most of us who have a job, they rock up as late as possible, piss off as early as possible, so they can avoid paying as much tax as possible. Now next up I want to talk about the Australian F1 drivers in more detail. Australia's been in Formula 1 since the very start, with Tony Gay's debuting in 1952, 2 years after the championship started. Now there's been 19 Formula 1 drivers from Australia Australia. I'm not going to go through them all just for the sake of time. Due to the fact that there's barely any media out there on the internet from the really early days, I'll mainly be focusing on Mark Webber onwards. However, our most successful Formula 1 driver ever was Jack Brabham. He won the Drivers' Championship 3 times, 1959, where he won by pushing his car over the finish line after his car ran out of fuel, 1960 and 1966. He also founded his own Formula 1 team and is the only man to ever win a race while driving his own car. He had 2 sons that also raced in Formula 1, David and Gary, however they were nowhere near as successful as him. And as of recording this video, the only other world champion that Australia has is Alan Jones, who won the championship in 1980. Those two are still the most successful drivers we've ever had, but I have a feeling that Oscar Piastri might join that list one day. Not with this car though, maybe he's better off in one of these. But before we get into the drivers, I want to quickly touch on the most controversial man in Australian F1 history, Michael Masi. Michael Masi was the F1 race director from 2019 to the 12th of December 2021, when he committed the war crime against humanity known as Abu Dhabi 2021. Now for those of you who don't know, this was the last F1 round of the season, with Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton both completely tied on points. Whoever came first would win the title. Lewis would win number 8, beating Michael Schumacher's record, and Max Verstappen would win his first. Now it was lap 53 of 58, and 9-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, 8-time world champion Lewis Hamilton, 7th, was literally 5 laps away from finally winning that 8th championship that's evaded him twice before. It was in first place, 12 seconds ahead from his rival Max Verstappen. There was literally nothing Red Bull could do to win this race, when all of a sudden, on lap 53, one of the greatest drivers in modern F1 history made a rare mistake and thunder-cunted his car into the wall, bringing out the safety car. Now this completely closed the gap between the first two, and Max Verstappen went in to get new tyres, while Hamilton didn't to protect his track position. Now at this point in time, Lewis Hamilton's hard tyres were 38 laps old. For comparison, an AU Falcon on Linglongs would have more grip than those tyres at that point. But Max Verstappen pitted for brand new soft tyres. But that was all well and good. Because the car took so long to get cleaned up, there wouldn't be enough time to get one more racing lap, because they'd have to let all the lapped cars get in front of him before they could resume the race, which in this situation would have the race end under the safety car. However, Michael Masi decided that he wasn't going to do that. He let only the 5 cars in between Hamilton and Verstappen go past. Hamilton got shit mixed, and Michael Masi fled to Pakistan, where he hid out for the next 10 years in a compound before SEAL Team 6 stormed in and shot him dead. Okay, maybe that was a little bit of an exaggeration, but safe to say he wasn't back there next year. Anyway, on to the drivers. Starting with Mark Webber, Australia's greatest pilot. See this photo here? This is Mark Webber in Le Mans in 1999, piloting the infamous Mercedes CLR as a part of the German manufacturer's new space program. Now this happened to Mark Webber twice, in practice and the warm-up for the race, and unfortunately there's no video of Mark Webber flipping the car, just these still photos. It was 1999, there was no iPhones back then. However, they did manage to get a video of his teammate, Peter Dombrek, absolutely fuck-knuckling it off the track and into the forest. Unsurprisingly, Mercedes pulled out of endurance racing after this incident, and 3 years later, Mark Webber started in F1. Now, as far as I'm aware, for the next 11 years, Mark Webber managed to keep the cars on the ground. It wasn't exactly his fault anyway, it was an aerodynamic problem, until the 2010 European Grand Prix. While trying to give a tow off Kovalainen down the straight, he got a little bit close for comfort, gave him a little prostate exam, before completing what would be his 3rd backflip in motorsport history. Now, before YouTube takes it down, he was fine. Here you can see him taking his steering wheel out, but this wouldn't be the last time he got airborne. At the 2012 Chinese Grand Prix, he ran wide and on the way back in, hit the curb at speed, bumping up his nose, and doing what I think is the only documented wheelie in Formula 1. It's good to see though that as the years went on, he managed to keep it on the ground a bit more often. So we've seen him take 4 wheels off the ground, we've seen him take 2 wheels off the ground, and if you follow that pattern now, it's time to only take 1 wheel off the ground. During the 2013 Nürburgring GP, after a dodgy pit stop, Mark Webber took off from the pits. However, his car was determined to send itself flying once more. This time though, it was only 1 wheel, which promptly ejected itself, absolutely shit mixing this poor bloke at the garage next to him. And that was the end of his piloting career. He now manages Oscar Piastri, who also has a passion for aviation, posting this photo on September the 11th. Next up, we're going to talk about Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo is known as the late-breaking, fast qualifying, yet super unlucky when it comes to race day Australian driver. By far one of the most loved people to ever drive for F1. While he was really good, unfortunately he was always paired with people who were just better. Vettel and Verstappen, 8 world championships between the two of them, then a shock move to drive tractors for Renault, and then another shock move to drive tractors for McLaren with another future world champion. Poor Danny Ric. He won 7 races with Red Bull and 1 with McLaren, including his famous Monaco win with Red Bull in 2018, where this famous photo came from, although he should have won it twice. In 2016 he qualified on pole, which if you've watched this far in the video you'd know, is basically a guaranteed win in Monaco, since it's impossible to actually overtake anyone. anyone. However, on that day, Red Bull pulled an absolute Ferrari masterclass in strategy, called Ricciardo into pit, pulled off his wheels, and realised they forgot his tyres. So while he sat there with his cock in his hand, Lewis Hamilton passed him, and he came out behind him where he'd finished the race.
I was called in the box. I didn't make the call. I got called, so they should have been ready.
Another highlight of Daniel Ricciardo's racing career was in 2024 when Lance Stroll absolutely thunder-cunted it up his asshole without even bothering to touch the brake pedal, then blamed Daniel Ricciardo for it after ending both of their race.
Idiots just slammed on the brake, check wing damage.
You're saying my mistake? Okay, I had started to calm down, but now that pisses me off because I watched his onboard. He's not even looking at me, and then he's right underneath me, so that pisses me off.
But the funniest part of Daniel Ricciardo's career has to be his time with Max Verstappen as his teammate. Now these days all the big world champions can't be bothered doing any media duties because they simply don't have to. They got the bargaining power. But back from 2015 to 2018 when he was partnered up with Max Verstappen, as Max once said,
when I look back at it now, I'm like, Daniel, why would you allow all these things like back in the day? No, I was 18, 19, I was like, whatever. Yeah, I was like, whatever. If Daniel's okay with it, I'm okay with it.
Which resulted in the future 4-time world champion and arguably the greatest driver of our generation doing stupid promotional shit like this.
And my little elf friend here, Alpha Maximus, would like to wish you something else.
Of course, a big thank you to all the fans for supporting us this year. I think it has been an amazing year together.
Simply because Daniel thought it would be funny. Lovely work, Daniel. These two had a great relationship, solidified by the fact that in Daniel's last Formula 1 race, he pitted for soft tyres on the last lap so he could clock the fastest lap, taking a point away from Lando Norris, further helping Max Verstappen in his charge for his 4th consecutive championship. What a guy.
Your old pal Daniel picked up a fastest lap at the end as well, mate.
Thank you, Daniel.
Oscar Piastri.
That was unexpected.
Now I've got a lot to say about him at this point in the video because every dot point I had written up I've already covered. But so far he's looking very promising. He's beaten Daniel Ricciardo and tied with Mark Webber for Grand Prix wins. The only Australian drivers in front of him are 2 world champions, and he almost fucking had it last year. And as much as people and McLaren themselves say there's no favouritism, I mean, who would you choose? They're an English team that's been absolutely going through it for years now. They've got an English driver who's stuck with him through thick and thin. They finally managed to turn their tractor into a rocket ship, and the last Australian they had raced for him cheated on him and got back with his ex. It doesn't surprise me at all that they'd want Lando to win over Oscar last year, but Oscar's shown his worth, and once McLaren find the instruction book to that Mercedes engine they've got in their car, they've proved that they can do the aero and chassis right. They've got a driver that's proven over and over again that they can beat a world champion in the same machinery. We might finally get a 3rd Australian world champion. Anyway, as far as I'm aware, this is the longest video I've ever made in this format. I thought I'd make a video about something that I'm genuinely interested in, which to be honest, I don't really do that much on this channel, but I'll be honest, it makes it a lot easier to sit down for hours on end editing when you're editing a video about something you're actually interested in. So thank you guys for sticking around. I'm not even going to tell you to like and subscribe on this one. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you'll probably enjoy one of these too. Thank you for all the people supporting me on Patreon. You guys would have seen this video a couple days earlier than everyone else. And with that all said and done, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.